I don't do these sort of things very often, but I am a fan of like certain franchises, and Alien happens to be one of them. I have loved Alien ever since I was a young man. H.R. Geiger, just the artist. I remember going to Borders bookstore and like looking at his artwork books, which also felt like some sort of like religious taboo. Like you just, like you're like, am I supposed to look at this? Because it was just so provocative and dark. But, you know, that series was horrifying, ominous, dreadful. You never knew what was going to happen next. Dark alleyways, or not alleyways, but spaceship tunnels. And, you know, it was just great. It was great. It was genuinely scary for its time. And over the years they did a lot of stupid shit with the franchise. Let's be honest. There were some reboots that weren't so good. I love Sigourney Weaver in it. But when we got to like Alien 4 Resurrection, I really thought it was a cool movie in like sort of a campy saying goodbye to the series sort of way. But they didn't say goodbye to the series; like they kept it going. But it was cool. But it was not what the previous Alien movies had been. So after that, they go off on this adventure into God knows what, the old typical reinventing the wheel, right? And, that's where we end up with things like Prometheus, and, we start combining the Alien and Predator universes, which isn't necessarily a bad deal, but they went more action movie than scary, dreadful horror survival. Okay, we could still deal with that. Then we get to the announcement of Alien Earth. And now, mind you, I didn't do a ton of research into it. Okay. I didn't follow the production. I didn't, dive into where the source material came from. But what I was imagining was if they were doing Alien Earth, that it would have been something to do with like, the Alien Earth Wars, comic book material, right? There's a lot of source material to draw from in the Dark Horse universe with all of the Alien franchise, which nobody ever seems to do. There's so many, like even little short stories that are just really, really good and cool and creepy and stuff like that. And don't ask me why. Don't ask me why these people in Hollywood, like you can just go on Rotten Tomatoes, for instance, and you can look and you can see people leaving reviews, and it's like everyone thinks they're a film critic. Everyone thinks they're so eloquent, and the way that they type things out. It was a flavorful delight of satisfactory notes of terror and dread. Like shut the fuck up. Like that. What the fuck did you just say? Are you describing a quiche or a movie? Like, but yeah, I digress. Let's get into it. Alien Earth. Okay, so first thing I got to start off with, he doesn't like hit right away, in the series, but once he does drop in your face, you might not even notice it at first because he's so terrible, but like, you think he's a passover, but God, is this guy bad? This Alex Lothar guy, I think that's the way you say his name, the medic. Where did they find this guy? Like, is he somebody's nephew, some executive's nephew? This guy looks like he's actually retarded. And he acts like he's retarded too. And I'm just going to leave it at that without too many spoilers. Okay, the kids. The kids. Why is everything so just like fucked up and perverse now? Why can't we write a story that doesn't involve children anymore? Is there some sort of aspect here where they're trying to draw a younger audience into this like horror franchise and put them in that like adventure book sort of scenario or something? I don't understand. But there's this whole Peter Pan aspect to this thing that they're really pushing, this allegorical analogy, what have you. But yeah, so we've got kids. We've got sick kids that we are putting into synthetic bodies. Now, to preface this, we are 2 years before the original Alien movie, which was made in 1979, right? That was supposed to exist in like 2222 or some bullshit like that. But we're 2 years before that. There are 5 companies, right? There's Weyland-Yutani, which is apparently Weyland-Yutani now and not Weyland and Yutani. So I don't know that that necessarily meshes up in the timeline. I think that might have been able to happen more relative to our time now. So maybe that's correct. there's this prodigy corporation that's led by this kid who's putting children into cyborgs, who's a boy genius, and then supposedly there's a couple other corporations that we haven't been introduced to yet. So, prequel, okay? And in this prequel, somebody decided, hey, let's have like 5 alien species, maybe more. 5 alien species that we're never going to mention again in the entire series, right? And then when it gets to the first alien movie and they find the xenomorph, we're going to call that the first alien species we've ever encountered, right? I do believe that that is said in at least the first or second movie, Aliens, maybe by Burke, the criminal guy through the company. But yeah, Alex is terrible, the medic guy terrible, and then his sister is put into a synthetic body, and she looks like as a child that she's maybe like 12, 14, 13, somewhere in that age, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe she's big for her age, but why is she retarded? Why is she retarded? And then they put them in these synthetic bodies. Okay, and you could argue that these synthetic bodies don't have emotions because they do cover that in a scene. They don't produce the chemicals and stuff for emotions anymore. But then wouldn't they be less retarded and more methodical? And they are the absolute opposite of methodical. They're just retarded. It's like watching a bunch of autists in robot bodies, and it's just bad. There's literally a scene where they're just like all sitting around in a little like couch area, and they're like, me retard, me not know what to do. Ah, maybe my battery run out and I just go like, what is this crap, and why is that, like, who greenlit this? It's just so bad. So I don't want to spoil too much stuff, but you've seen the previews. Ship crashes, guy wants the stuff, kids go, because that seems like a good idea. Like, we've got these kids in these multi-billion-dollar experimental bodies, but like, let's just send them. And little spoiler here, you see her put the sword on her back. That's actually one of those paper slicers, you know what I'm talking about? She just breaks it off, and it, like, for whatever reason, magnetically sticks to her back for the rest of the 2 episodes, which you never see her use, and it's just retarded. Again, retarded. There's this android guy, I can't remember the actor's name, but my wife pointed out that it was the guy from the Santa Clarita Diet, and he was pretty funny in the Santa Clarita Diet. But for whatever reason, he's just makes the worst android ever. Like, Michael Fassbender did a pretty dang good job with it, and I feel like previous actors in the series all did a pretty decent job with it. Even sometimes when you didn't know a person was a synthetic, right, and they were like a later generation that acted more human. But this guy is like, I don't know like what he is. Like, he acts like he's some sort of sage, like mystic wizard, like, but only if like it was Spider from Power Man 5000 coming in to drop some knowledge on you, like, are you ready to go? you know you used to be food. Just like, what is this guy talking about? And I mean, there's a bunch of scenes like that. I've heard people discuss this, like the pacing is just terrible. Like, they jump between a lot of different story elements and story arcs going on, and I understand like trying to make that work, but like a lot of it, like I said, like that you jump back to this like android crap, and it's just a bunch of kids in human adult bodies being absolute fucking retards, and you just can't stand it. It just breaks up the tone of it all. It's just so bad. And as I mentioned before, we now have multiple alien species that we never go on to talk about again in the series. I don't know why they couldn't make those aliens at least interesting. You've got the xenomorph, which is cool, and the xenomorph scenes are pretty cool. It does look a little bit off, like, but it looks good enough. Then we go on to the eyeball thing, and the eyeball thing is just weird. Like, I guess it's going to take control of its hosts or something like that, but we don't really get to that. There's some sort of plant hanging from the ceiling that seems to have grown through the ship. There's these ticks, essentially like giant space ticks that just suck your blood. And I can't remember if there's anything else yet. I don't think we've seen anything else yet. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. But they're just all very unimportant characters that don't seem to add anything to the overall like, if we were going to add all these extra characters, let's make it worth it. Let's add something new. Let's maybe add something that mutates with the alien, or I don't know, that, like a Prometheus-esque thing, like this is where this came from, turned into Deacon, eventually became alien through Michael Fassbender's. And I don't even approve of those movies. I think that was a terrible idea, dude. Don't mess with it. Just stick with the fact that the alien is a species that existed somewhere in the universe and we ran into it and it was unfortunate. Much better that way, much spookier. But God, just what a piece of trash. If you want to go watch it for a hate watch, go watch it for a hate watch. If you think I'm an idiot, go ahead and tell me I'm an idiot. But I hope it gets better. I mean, I like the Alien franchise. I hope it gets better, but my goodness, is this really, really terrible and disappointing. 2 episodes in, wasted all the time watching them last night. Rewatched the first one with my wife just to show her how bad it was. She didn't even want to turn on the second one, and she's a pretty big Alien fan as well. So yeah, that's my quick little review, synopsis, next day recap of Alien Earth. It stinks. It's a stinker. Yeah. All right, FX, go fire somebody. Toodaloo. Till next time.